Practical Anarchy, A Guide to Self-Determination, Dickie Dredd. And this is part 10 in our mini-series where we cover issues that crop up occasionally and that aren't in the main textbook or the main book. I'll do one version, this version which has got all the academic references in, etc. And then I'll do a slightly simpler version for those who want a shorter read and a less sort of heavy read. I'll post that as well. But this one that's recorded is the main one. Right, I've never been especially anti-sport. I have, however, always been suspicious of what competitive sport is used for and who gets bruised along the way. Anarchism, at least, as I understand and live it, is not about flattening human difference or pretending we all have the same abilities. It's about resisting domination, coercion and unnecessary hierarchy. Sport just happens to be a very clear place where all of those things show up, often early in life and usually wearing a tracksuit, and that reminds me of a horrible story at my school. Ugh. Anyway, part 1, school sport and early damage. For many of us, competitive sport begins at school, and it is here that things already start to go wrong, or can do. PE lessons and school teams often look less like play and more like social sorting. Being picked last, shouted at from the sidelines, or publicly ranked by speed or strength may seem trivial to adults, but it can leave a lasting mark. Research on school sport suggests that performance-driven environments are likely to increase anxiety and disengagement, particularly among children who do not fit narrow physical or gendered expectations. From an anarchist angle, the problem is not competition itself. Kids compete naturally all the time. The problem is that competition is compulsory, hierarchical and designed by adults who hold all the power. There is no meaningful opt-out, no say in the rules, and little space for dignity if you're not very good. It may help explain why so many adults later describe themselves as not sporty and avoid physical activity altogether. The system appears to push people out early and then wonders why they never come back. Part 2. Competition does not have to be cruel. Anarchism does not require us to abolish competitive sport. That would be absurd and frankly joyless. What it asks is whether competition is being used as a form of mutual challenge or as a way of sorting winners from losers in a deeper social sense. Philosophers of sport have drawn a useful distinction between competition as mutual testing and competition as domination. In the first case, opponents cooperate to create a meaningful challenge. In the second, the other person becomes something to be crushed. Most of us can feel the difference instinctively. A local five-a-side game, a boxing gym, a climbing wall, a running event where people cheer strangers across the line. These often feel alive in the right way. Losing does not make you worthless. Winning does not make you superior. An anarchist framing would probably lean towards self-managed clubs, rotating organisers and an emphasis on skill, safety and enjoyment rather than constant selection and exclusion. None of this is especially radical. It already exists in fragments wherever people organise sport for themselves rather than for money or prestige. Section 3. Football and the money problem. If school sport shows us small-scale harm, professional football shows us the big structural mess. Over the last few decades, football has been flooded with TV money, speculative ownership and global branding. Sport has become an industry first and a game second. Economists and sociologists have noted how this has driven wage inflation, financial instability and a widening gap between clubs. Bodies like FIFA and the leagues, such as the Premier League, increasingly function as commercial machines. Players are assets, clubs are investment vehicles, supporters are customers. Ticket prices rise, local fans are priced out, and clubs that once belonged to communities can be wrecked by distant owners chasing returns. This is not an argument against paying players or celebrating skill. It is an argument against scale and concentration. When money becomes absurd, accountability vanishes. Fan-owned clubs, wage limits and revenue sharing may sound unrealistic. They already exist in partial form. They hint that professionalism does not have to mean severing sport from the people who actually care about it. 4. Violence, firms and misdirected energy. Competitive sport also has a darker edge, most visibly in football hooliganism and organised firms. Decades of research suggest this violence is not really about football at all. It's bound up with exclusion, masculinity, and under pressure and the search of the meaning in societies that offer very little in it. From an anarchist perspective, this looks like misdirected collective energy. Sport provides identity and belonging, but when wider life is hollowed out, that identity can turn aggressive. Still, it would be dishonest to pretend sport only produces violence. It also produces real solidarity, care, and shared joy. The same terraces that occasionally erupt can also become spaces of mutual support and collective memory. 5. The lie of apolitical sport. We're often told that sport should be kept separate from politics. This is a comforting fiction. Large-scale sport has always been political, particularly at international level. The Olympic Games are a prime example. Flags, anthems, the medal tables convert individual effort into state symbolism. The International Olympic Committee talks endlessly about neutrality, yet its decisions are shaped by states, sponsors, and geopolitical pressure. Scholars have shown that this so-called neutrality often aligns neatly with existing power, rather than standing apart from it. Silence in this context is not absence of politics, but quiet agreement. 6. Athletes protest and consent. When athletes kneel, raise a fist, or refuse ceremonies, they are accused of dragging politics into sport. From where I stand, politics was already there. Athletes are regulated, disciplined, and displayed by institutions they do not control. Speaking out is less an intrusion than a small act of reclamation. That said, anarchism is also wary of using athletes as mouthpieces. Protest only sits comfortably within anarchist ethics, when it is chosen, not imposed. The moment gestures become compulsory, whether from states or movements, we're back in the same authoritarian loop. 7. Boycotts, refusal, or theatre. Sporting boycotts are awkward tools. Sometimes they matter. The boycott of apartheid South Africa appears to have contributed to international isolation and moral pressure, particularly because it involved athletes and civil society withdrawing consent rather than states posturing alone. Cold War Olympic boycotts, by contrast, often look like theatre. Athletes lost careers whilst power structures remained intact. From an anarchist viewpoint, the key question is agency. Bottom-up boycotts may express solidarity. Top-down boycotts usually instrumentalise sport for geopolitical display. 8. Mega events and soft power. Hosting mega events is itself political. Research suggests that Olympics and World Cups frequently involve displacement, expanded surveillance, and long-term public debt, all justified by vague promises of regeneration. People enjoy the spectacle, and that enjoyment is real. So are the costs tend to be unevenly distributed and quickly forgotten once the cameras move on. This is the conclusion. Part 9. Leaving space for sport to breathe. Competitive sport is not inherently liberating or oppressive. It reflects society around it. It can build confidence, joy, and shared meaning. It can also humiliate, exclude, and brutalise. Anarchism does not offer a perfect blueprint here. It offers suspicion, limits, and a refusal to lie around about what is going on. If competition is voluntary, locally rooted and bounded in its rewards and punishments, it may sit quite comfortably with anarchist values. When it becomes compulsory, extractive, and tied to identity, money and state power, it starts to look like just another machine for producing winners and casualties. I'm not interested in abolishing competition. I'm interested in pulling it back into a human scale. Play rather than spectacle. Challenge rather than coercion. Community rather than commodity. That may not save sport, but it might stop it doing quite so much damage along the way.